He was one of, 5 children. We can't just let him sink. And so we did all the things. We kind of swallowed a little bit of our pride and a little bit of our control that we thought we had over our lives, and we opened up our home, and we were a revolving door for therapists. We had sensory integration therapists, play therapists, speech therapists, special instruction therapists. We even put the twins in speech and language, because they're right under him in terms of age, because all the research said that if one kid in your family had autism, then it was more likely for the kids under them to be displaying some of the symptoms. So we did all the things. He would go to school, he'd bite his shirt. It was just like he was biting his shirt, and our speech and language therapist gave us a little plastic tube, and it hung on a little spiral keychain, and he stuck it in his mouth, and after like 2 months, he stopped biting his shirt. And it turned out that what we had to learn was all the ways that people naturally adjust and develop in the world. Philip was not going to develop like that. And we were going to have to do the extra things to make sure that his development was happening as rapidly as it could, seeing that we kind of lost 2 years, treating him like he was going to develop like everyone else.
And so with that, assuming that Philip would just kind of come around his own, a lot of our family and friends, you try to make people feel good about the situation, right? If, you have a kid who's on the spectrum and you want to be supportive, or somebody, you want to say, well, he'll be fine, he'll grow out of it, or, that's just what boys do, or, that's just a kid being a kid. And the reality was, as much as we wanted that to be the case, that just wasn't our case. And so, we had to learn a lot, I think for me especially, being a brother who comes from the community, and you don't see autism, you don't see social
emotional disorders.
You just don't see that. And so, learning to kind of deal with that, because the way I grew up is kind of like, well, you just kind of get yourself together and you just pull yourself out of it. You do best because what you're told to do. And so you're used to things being in a certain type of way. You're used to things being in a certain type of order, structure. And so when you have a kid who's outside of that, and he's not doing it to be defiant, but that's just how God made him. And so who am I to say, well, this is what God made, that God made something wrong, because God don't make mistakes. And that's what I genuinely believe. God don't make mistakes, and my child is not a mistake. And
so it was difficult. That period of trying to get him on track was difficult. He was going to 2 or 3 schools a day, and he was having rough days. And it was hard for us to watch. My husband is articulating it was hard for him. I think just being an African-American family, trying to have it all together, trying to have well-behaved kids, because that's a reflection of what kind of parent you are, it was difficult because we had to accept this L. We had to take this loss because he wasn't going to do what everyone else said he should or what we thought he should. So one of our favorite principals said to us that, as educators and as teachers and as parents, it's always important for us to have a box. We want the kids to kind of fit in the box, and then that's how we'll train them. And it was important for us to learn that for Philip, for this particular child, we were going to have to expand our box to fit him. And we weren't going to be able to exist in a world with him unless our box fit his reality. And it was difficult for us. It was, as my husband said, he was having a hard time as a father bonding, because I think really for him, respect and love were synonymous. And so if you have a kid that can't respect you, am I saying that right? Yeah. That it means he doesn't love you as much, and they weren't vibing, is that a word for it? And it was hard for me and my husband, because I just wanted to protect Philip from judgment, from scrutiny. And so it was a huge, huge rift for our marriage, because I want to love and support my husband, and I want to support what he feels is best, but I have to protect this baby that came into this world different, So there were a few years that we had to cope. We had to cope with the loss of normalcy, right? We had to cope with the difference that we're young parents and we think we're cute and we think we're cool. So we had to, cope with being different, with getting that minivan and settling for playrooms instead of movie theaters, and, settling for play dates with parents that we may not like just because they had kids that were a better fit socially for our kid. And we had to cope with our home being an open door for therapy. And we really had to take our hands off and just trust the process. So after coping, we had to adjust. And how do you feel about that adjustment period?
I think the adjustment period was just I guess for me, the light bulb epiphany that this is our life and this is how it's going to look.